We're going to discuss an incident that occurred late Friday night at 221 East Kellogg. Shortly after 8 o'clock, officers were dispatched to disturbance at 221 East Kellogg. Officers arrived a short time later, and upon arrival, they found a 33-year-old Hispanic male standing behind the front counter inside the lobby. Officers had learned that this male had entered into the hotel. Once inside, he took off his shoes and socks, became disruptive, and jumped the front counter, and then took the clerk's cell phone. Officers also learned that while inside the hotel, the man had made several comments about people chasing him, and that he had also been shot. It was learned that he was not shot, had no wounds to him whatsoever. While speaking with the individuals, officers realized that earlier in the day, officers had made two additional calls on this individual. One was shortly after 4 o'clock in the 2200 block of South Seneca, and the other one was shortly after 6 o'clock in the 2200 block of South Elizabeth. While speaking with the male, officers called for EMS, and EMS arrived on scene at approximately 8:43 hours. The male was cooperative with the officers and was talking with them outside of the hotel. EMS arrived, began their preliminary medical screening, and he was pretty much cooperative with them. The male agreed to go to St. Joseph Hospital for further medical screening and possible psychological assessment. He voluntarily walked to the ambulance. Once in the ambulance, he was placed in basically a captain's chair in the back of the ambulance and seatbelted in. As the ambulance pulled out onto Broadway, the male stood up in the ambulance, basically stated he was not going, and then dove through a small partition separating the cab of the ambulance from the back of the ambulance. This male was able to get his hand on the gear lever of the ambulance and another hand on the gas pedal. The EMS driver was able to get the brakes applied quickly, and the ambulance came to a stop in the 700 block of South Broadway. The officer that was following the ambulance to the hospital exited his patrol car, entered the ambulance through the back door, and upon entering in the ambulance found the EMS captain attempting to pull the male back into the back portion of the ambulance. The EMS captain was unable to do this. A taser was deployed by the officer, striking the individual in the legs. This appeared to have effect. The officer believed that this had an effect on him, allowing the ambulance driver to get the vehicle into park and shut it down. Shortly after that, a matter of seconds, the driver of the ambulance was able to open the driver's side door, where both he and the suspect fell out of the ambulance onto the ground. EMS was able to hold him onto the ground until a second officer arrived. This male was put into handcuffs. Shortly after placing him into handcuffs, the male became unresponsive on the scene. Officers quickly removed the handcuffs from him. EMS and fire personnel then began working on him. This male was transported to St. Francis Hospital in critical condition, where he remains at this time. Any questions?
We don't know what the condition is?
Right now he's in critical condition.
But we don't know why? What's his injury? Or
He has no physical injuries that medical staff can find.
Todd, did it appear he was on any kind of drugs or anything?
Witnesses at the scene believe that he could have been under the influence of narcotics.
And what were the other incidents earlier in the day? What were you guys called out to involving him?
He was laying in a parking lot at the South Seneca address, and the second one, I think he was either sitting on the ground or laying on the ground on South Elizabeth.
Is that 2200 block of both of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And when you went out to check on him, he was fine?
He spoke with the officers. The officers did not find him to be a threat to himself or to others. On one of them, they gave him a bottle of water, and then he began walking down the street.
And how old again?
He's 33.
And was either the fall out of the ambulance or the taser, is that contributing at all to him being in the hospital?
We do not believe so.
You don't believe the taser caused his injuries, or caused him to be in critical condition?
No, we don't.
Okay. And why is that?
He has no physical trauma that we could find, nor medical staff has alerted us to any physical trauma on him.
Do you believe, though, that the taser, you know, there's the controversy with the taser. Do you believe the taser caused him to collapse and now be in critical condition?
No, I do not.
He was walking around after he was tased.
Oh, he got back up and,
He was up for a short time, yes.
okay.
So they're not giving you any indication of why he's in critical condition?
Right now, we're looking at possible narcotics in his system.
And Todd, when you say he's in critical condition, are we talking ICU? Is he on a ventilator? Do you know, or can you say?
I know he is in ICU, yes. All right, anything else?
Are there any body camera footage of any of this?
No.
What hotel is it? Do you know?
I believe it's a Holiday Inn.
Can you describe was proper procedure followed in terms of like putting him in the van? Like how was he, is that normal for there to be an opening and for him to be able to stand up and go through the opening?
It's a very small opening in it. EMS procedures, I can't comment on what their procedures are in reference to how they transport people. They did not believe he was a threat at that time. He wasn't requiring medical attention at that time, so they believed putting him in this chair and seatbelting him in was the way to transport him.
So when you say he dove through, it was like a hole, it wasn't like he broke a window or anything, he just kind of dove through a hole?
Yeah, it's a small opening, a small door in the ambulance.
Was there just one driver and then there was someone in the back with him, or?
There was the driver of the ambulance and then a EMS captain in the back of the ambulance.
Okay, and the captain is the one who tased him?
No, a WPD officer tased him.
Oh.
That was following behind, right?
Yes.
And they stopped and he got out and...
That is correct.
And that the officer tased him while he was in the ambulance, though?
While he was trying to
Take over the...
take over the ambulance, yes.
So that the police officer somehow got into the ambulance?
Upon the ambulance stopping, the officer who was following him exited his patrol car, got into the ambulance through the rear door, and found the gentleman basically halfway through the door. He was trying to, I don't know, crash the ambulance or whatever he was trying to do. The EMS captain was trying to get him back out of the driver's area, and that's when the officer tased him.
Okay.
You said he was able to get his hand on, like, the gear shift?
He had it on the gear, one hand on the gear shift and one hand was on the gas pedal, and he was revving the engine with the gas pedal.
So was he, like, all the way down in the floorboard? Or is...
He was close enough to get his hands in there.
Oh, okay. And did the ambulance, did it cause the ambulance to, like, hit a curb or...
No, the driver was able to get it stopped on the roadway.
And then the deal where they fell out, can you explain that again? Like, who fell out? Because so he gets tased. So there's a guy in the back of the ambulance who's like trying to pull him back, and he's driving through the forward bit. The officer sees it stopped, he comes in and tases him. So then where did they fall out? At the back of the ambulance or out the...
No, they went out the driver's side door.
So he was able to fit all the way through that little
Yes.
hole and then go through the driver's side door?
That is correct.
So it's not that little of a hole. They got all the way through, okay.
Can you tell us, like, the size of this guy? Is he a little guy?
No, he was not.